Welcome to the First Unitarian Church of Cincinnati. My name is Reverend Connie Simon. Our urban community welcomes all with love, supports learning and spiritual growth, serves our wider community, and works for justice, equity, and inclusion. We're glad you're here this morning. If you'd like more information about our community or its work, please email us at member-care@firstuu.com. Our flowers this morning are from Allison Irwin, with the dedication that these are for the bounty of fall and her husband's and mother-in-law's fall birthdays. Thank you, Allison. We light our chalice, the chosen symbol of our faith, with Welcoming the Stranger by Tracy Blakeney. A child journeys far from home, fearful and brave, in need of safe harbor. Guided by this chalice, may we seek to understand the causes of flight. Like the comfort of a candle flickering in a window of darkness, let us welcome this child into our home with warmth, nourishment, and love. Would we not want the same for our own child, lost and alone in a strange land?
Run Home, Little Mouse. Written and illustrated by Britta Teckentrup. Little Mouse wants to go home to his family. But he can't remember the way. Hurry along, Little Mouse. It's a fox! Run home, Little Mouse, as fast as you can. Watch out, Little Mouse. It's a weasel. Run home, Little Mouse, as fast as you can. Look up, Little Mouse. It's an owl. Run home, Little Mouse, as fast as you can. Be careful, Little Mouse. It's a cat. Run home, Little Mouse, as fast as you can. Listen closely, Little Mouse. It's a crow. Run home, Little Mouse, as fast as you can. Shh. Hush, Little Mouse. It's 2 bats! Run home, Little Mouse, as fast as you can. Who's there, Little Mouse? It's your family! Home at last, Little Mouse. In our story today, Little Mouse was running from danger, trying to get home because home is a place where you are supposed to be safe. But sometimes our homes face danger too. This year, during Guest at Your Table, the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee invites you to witness stories of their partners from around the world as they tell you about home. Their partners in Central America are working to make sure no one is forced to flee their home due to violence or economic devastation. Their partners in Alaska, Louisiana, and the Pacific are fighting for their homes and ancestral lands against the ravages of extractive industries and climate change. And their partners in Burma, Bangladesh, and beyond are working tirelessly to support the rights of the Rohingya ethnic minority in Burma after facing government-backed genocide in their homeland. My question for you today is this: what do you love most about your home? What makes your home worth fighting for? Share your answer with a family member or friend this week or during coffee hour after the service.
Hello. This morning we've been hearing the stories of people who are dealing with human rights issues in Guatemala, Myanmar, the Marshall Islands, and southern Louisiana. I hope that their stories will inspire you to participate in Guest at Your Table. It's a program sponsored by the UUSC, or Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, and it's an effort to raise money to help our friends and partners across the globe. They are the guests in Guest at Your Table. Please plan your family meals and other activities in November and December as participation in Guest at Your Table. There can be discussions of these friends and how they will benefit from our donations. You'll want the printed materials, which have been developed by the UUSC. They're really well done and helpful. There is this booklet of stories of hope, of people's personal stories and dealing with adversity throughout the world. There's also a message of the day calendar that you can use, again, for your family activities and discussions. And there's a colorful money collection box that you can put in a prominent place in your home, and people can insert currency or coins. It can be something interesting and fun for children. With these printed materials, I'm happy to deliver them to your home. I have plenty of time on my hands. I'm happy to either take it to your home or arrange to meet you somewhere and deliver these things. So just send me an email or call me. My contact information is in the Breeze system. If you would like to do your own printing, most of the materials are online at the website uusc.org. In terms of making an actual donation, it's easiest just to go through the Breeze system on our through our church at First Unitarian of Cincinnati. Or you can write a check made payable to UUSC and mail it to First Church or to the UUSC. We are designating Guest at Your Table as our Share the Plate recipient for the month of November. And so please participate in this activity. In closing, I would like to say that the theme for 2020 Guest at Your Table is the meaning of home, and how appropriate for this year. With the pandemic, all of us, just our appreciation of home and our gratitude for having a place to stay has been greatly intensified and by the pandemic. So let's work with the UUSC to make sure that no one is forced to flee their home because of economic devastation, governmental tyranny, climate change, or violence. Let's work together on this. Thank you.
UUSC has spent 80 years serving communities facing injustice. We invite you to join us as we move deeper into the work of advancing human rights across the globe. Our world is crying out for us to face and address challenging, complex, and intersecting human rights issues like climate justice, dehumanizing and deadly immigration policies, and the criminalization of people because of their identities. At UUSC, the heart of our work is a commitment to partnerships rooted in trust and respect. With our partners, we strive to affirm the worth and dignity of all people by advancing human rights and dismantling the systems that oppress people. The lifeblood of our work is the support of our members. Building collective power is the work of every person of faith and conscience. We need your support to strengthen movements for justice. Together, we are building a better world that respects every person's inherent worth and dignity. To join our Text to Action team, please follow the instructions below. It takes all of us to build a better world.
When we hear about migration from Central America to the United States, the story often begins with the injustices people face upon arriving to the border, or the dangers and difficulties of the journey itself. We less often hear of the conditions that lead people to migrate in the first place, and even less often about what happens when people are deported or forced to return to the country they left. Today, I have the pleasure of introducing you to this week's guest, Adela Ramirez from UUSC's partner organization, Association Pope No. Pope No works to address root causes of migration in Guatemala and support people who are deported from Mexico or the United States to Guatemala. Providing psychosocial support and help reintegrating, Pope No focuses their work on supporting children, youth, women, and indigenous Mayan people who have been forced to return to Guatemala. Here is a clip of Adela sharing about her work with Pope No, including descriptions of the conditions that force people to flee and the difficulties of being forced to return to Guatemala.
Saludos cordiales a todas y a todos. Hoy comparto mi experiencia desde Asociación Pope No. Pope No trabaja con personas retornadas de México y Estados Unidos. En el eje de migración, mi cargo es técnica de campo en el área Mayamam de Huehuetenango y mi trabajo consiste en acompañar al proceso de retorno y reintegración de niños, niñas y adolescentes migrantes. Cuando nos vemos obligados a salir de nuestras comunidades, dejamos lo conocido para enfrentarnos a un mundo desconocido. De cierta forma, se rompe la familia, corremos muchos riesgos e incluso muchos pierden la vida en el camino. La mayoría de la gente se encuentra en condiciones que no son buenas. La pobreza no les permite vivir en plenitud, tanto en mi comunidad como en todo el territorio de Huehuetenango. Por estas razones, por ser una zona fronteriza, la población cruza fronteras en busca de una nueva oportunidad para las familias. Por eso decimos siempre que migrar es un acto de amor. Sin embargo, las personas migrantes son tratadas como delincuentes. Al ser capturadas, se esconden y por lo tanto, pues son retornadas hacia sus comunidades, dejando a los niños en albergues y otros lugares donde se encuentran vulnerables a sus derechos. Sus esperanzas se ven frustradas. Por otra parte, El gobierno no da atención al proceso de reintegración. Es por eso que desde organizaciones de sociedad civil nos hemos tomado el trabajo de acompañar a niños, niñas y adolescentes en la reintegración a sus familias y comunidades.
According to research, climate change will leave many homes in the Marshall Islands uninhabitable by 2050. This guest is Marshallese climate researcher and UUSC partner Mark Stagey, who works together with communities in the Marshall Islands to collect data on flood risks and groundwater quality. By involving communities in data collection and decision making, Mark helps increase Indigenous leadership in climate research, ensure self-determination for communities, and prolong the habitability of people's homes through adaptation and resource conservation. Here's a clip of Mark speaking about the importance of increased involvement of impacted communities in climate change research and adaptation planning.
That's one of the challenges I'm facing right now, is just the partnerships and the collaborative work that is so important is being constrained. And I think it doesn't have to be that way. I think there's a level of co-authorship and collaboration that is deeper and can be done. But there has been a reluctance. I think people's next published article is writing on the fact that they're leading the work. They can't co-lead. They can't co-author. It doesn't work in that way for them. So, and that's why I really like working with UUSC, because they're kind of free from that those confines. They're not motivated by that ambition. It's much healthier, I think, in terms of a collaborative partnership for our community. And so some of the challenges that I see and being addressed with UUSC's partnership has been, that way that we do our work and what motivates us in the end, and what timelines and restrictions that we are given to do the work, just being more, I guess, reflective of the local context.
Our next guest is Chief Sherelle Parfait Dardar, leader of the Grand Kailu Dulak Band of the Biloxi Chitimacha Choctaw Tribe. Through a partnership with the Lowlander Center, a volunteer-run ecological justice organization in southern Louisiana, UUSC works with Chief Sherelle to advocate for the tribe's rights against the ravages of climate change, exacerbated by oil and gas activity and lack of federal recognition. Last January, UUSC and Lowlander Center supported Chief Sherelle as she joined with 4 other indigenous communities in Louisiana and Alaska to submit a formal complaint to the United Nations about the U.S. government's failure to adequately address the climate crisis devastating their homelands. Here is a clip of Chief Sherelle sharing about her home and how drastically her tribe's lands have changed since her childhood.
There were once many trees on our land, and they sink away or die from saltwater intrusion. The vastly wooded areas we used to run barefoot in as children are becoming less and less as time passes. Things are changing so quickly. I fear that my grandchildren will never know the joys of what I experienced as an Indian child living on the bayou. The hurricanes come and ravage our community with wind and water. Our homes are left unprotected by our local government. We are unable to afford the necessary insurances to cover our properties due to the lack of protection so desperately needed. We are given no choice but to struggle to rebuild or relocate to higher grounds outside of our community. They say we can't be saved. They say that we have to relocate to preserve life. Once again, they have proven us to be expendable in their eyes. But we have proven that we never back down from the impossible. We will continue to fight for our way of life, for ours is unlike any other. We will fight until the last tree has died, until the last bit of land has washed away. We will always fight for our home.
Violence against the Rohingya ethnic and religious minorities of Burma escalated in 2017 with clearance operations by the Burmese military, but the building blocks of genocide were put in place many years before. Starting as early as the 1980s, the Rohingya were gradually stripped of their right to education, healthcare, citizenship, and more. Hundreds of thousands of them have been forced to flee their homes since. UUSC's partner Suja Karamodan is one of the many forced to leave Burma out of fear for their lives. After fleeing at the age of only 17, he gained first-hand experience with the difficulty of accessing basic services and building a life as a refugee in a new country. Once he gained more stable footing himself, he co-founded an organization called Elam Empowerment to support Rohingya and other refugees in Kuala Lumpur, Malaysia. Since then, Elam Empowerment has been providing educational opportunities, vocational trainings, and a community center where refugees can practice their cultural traditions. Here is a clip of Suja explaining the reason he fled Burma, as well as some of the services Elam Empowerment provides.
In the high school, I was going for exam and I was not allowed to sit in an exam. So I pretty much challenged the immigration officer who was not. So for that, I was arrested and I was detained. And after about 11 days, I was released on bail. Yet I was not, even the officer who released me told that it is not a guarantee freedom. So the general concern was, you could get again and then basically get killed. So that's how I fled. Elam Empowerment is basically to provide a safe space for refugees to come and breathe. An education or training space to have that space that they can come and they can feel free and they can exercise their cultural things that they want to, for example, wedding, they want to do it in the cultural manner. We provide the space for them.
Our Share the Plate for the month of November goes to the UUSC for the important work they do with Guest at Your Table and other programs. If you'd like to give, you can text GIVE to 513-717-7373. If you have access to our Breeze member system, you can click Give Now. You can give online at our website, firstuu.com, or you can mail a check to 536 Linton Street, Cincinnati, Ohio 45219. Please specify when making your gift whether you'd like it to go to the work of UUSC or to the operating funds of the First Unitarian Church. We are grateful for your assistance and for your generosity to help us do the work that we do within our walls and outside in the larger community. And again, if this is your first time visiting us, please feel free to let the virtual offering plate pass you by. Your gift is your presence. Our offering will now be gratefully received.
This is my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace to lands afar and nigh. This is my home, the country where my heart is. Here are my hopes, my dreams, my only shine. But other hearts in other lands are beating, with hopes and dreams as true and high as mine. My country's skies are bluer than the ocean, and starlight beams on clover leaf and pine. All other lands are sunlight too and clover, and skies are anywhere as blue as mine. Oh, hear my song, O God of all the nations, a song of peace for heaven and for mine.
Our reading is by Benjamin Zephaniah. It's entitled, We Refugees. I come from a musical place where they shoot me for my song, and my brother has been tortured by my brother in my land. I come from a beautiful place where they hate my shade of skin. They don't like the way I pray, and they ban free poetry. I come from a beautiful place where girls cannot go to school. There you are told what to believe, and even young boys must grow beards. I come from a great old forest. I think it is now a field, and the people I once knew are not there now. We can all be refugees. Nobody is safe. All it takes is a mad leader or no rain to bring forth food. We can all be refugees. We can all be told to go. We can be hated by someone for being someone. I come from a beautiful place where the valley floods each year, and each year the hurricane tells us that we must keep moving on. I come from an ancient place. All my family were born there, and I would like to go there, but I really want to live. I come from a sunny, sandy place where tourists go to darken skin and dealers like to sell guns there. I just can't tell you what's the price. I am told I have no country now. I am told I am a lie. I am told that modern history books may forget my name. We can all be refugees. Sometimes it only takes a day, sometimes it only takes a handshake or a paper that is signed. We all come from refugees. Nobody simply just appeared. Nobody's here without a struggle. And why should we live in fear of the weather or the troubles? We all came here from somewhere. As Associate Director of Development for Congregation Relations at the UUSC, Reverend Laura Randall facilitates partnerships to strengthen the impact of UUSC and the social justice reach of UU communities. Through preaching, teaching, relationship building, and fundraising, Laura connects the work of UUSC to Unitarian Universalist congregations. Prior to joining UUSC, Laura's denominational work included serving as the Legacy Campaign Director for the Wake Now Our Vision collaborative campaign and as the Legacy Gifts Manager for the Unitarian Universalist Association. Laura's ministry has also included hospice chaplaincy and Alzheimer's education and advocacy. Laura holds a master's degree in divinity from Harvard Divinity School and a bachelor's degree in English and Communication Studies from Alfred University.
There is a large stain on the bathroom ceiling, peeling wallpaper in the bedroom, and the linoleum witnessed the Nixon administration. My home is filled with creaks, clutter, and too much dog hair, and I love it. I know my family and I are among the most privileged in the world right now. I have work and the ability to get work from home. I have running water, electricity, and the space outside for a few raised vegetable beds. In some ways, my physical world has gotten so very small in these last months. Seeing the same rooms and the same patch of earth so consistently, unceasingly, is a new experience for me. The urge to go somewhere, anywhere, is strong. And yet, I've never had more appreciation for the space my family and I call home. These unremarkable walls keep us warm and hold all the gratitude and anxiety these times have created in us. With all the uncertainty and upheaval surrounding us now, I've never been more aware of the importance of home, the importance of a place of shelter, stability, and belonging. Not all of us have this experience of home. For some of us, home is or was anything but stable and welcoming. Home can be dangerous. And I know there are some of us who work essential jobs who've had to leave their homes to keep their families safe from this virus. There are also those of us for whom that kind of separation isn't an option, and therefore whole families are bearing the risk of exposure. Some of us never feel safe in our homes, knowing that at any moment, state agents could burst through the door to arrest us or kill us. And then there are the many of us who find ourselves in the liminal space of no permanent home at all. Home is complicated. It is a place and it is a longing. It is a physical structure and it is a community of people. It is an anchor and an imagined ideal. Home is a fundamental necessity and an evolving act of creativity. Home is the foundation upon which we build our lives and the outcome of countless generative acts of love and repair. The work of the Unitarian Universalist Service Committee, or UUSC, is fundamentally about home in so many ways. This has been true since our founding 80 years ago, when the Unitarian Service Committee partnered with Jewish refugees and political dissidents in Europe in an effort to get as many people fleeing the Nazi regime as possible to safety. Today, our work focuses on climate-forced displacement, crisis response, and migrant justice. These issues may seem unrelated at first glance, but they are, at their core, all about home. The right to security within our homes, the right to restore our homes when they've been ravaged by natural or human-made disaster, and the right to seek a new home elsewhere. The 4 UUSC partners highlighted in this year's Guest at Your Table program each share stories that are primarily about the homes they are fighting for. Be that the villages they are trying to salvage from the effects of climate change, the communities they are trying to hold together as they navigate disaster and persecution, or the necessity of finding a new place to call home away from unremitting violence and economic devastation.
Chief Sherelle Parfait-Dada, chief of the Grand Kalu Dulek Band of the Biloxi Chitimacha Choctaw Tribe in southern Louisiana, has been advocating for a community for as long as she can remember. She has seen the land her tribe calls home drastically change in her lifetime as rising sea levels, oil and gas extraction, and natural disasters have claimed homes and destroyed the farmlands her tribe depends on for sustenance. Recently, Chief Sherelle joined with other First Nations and Indigenous peoples facing similar losses and damages and risks of climate displacement to take their fight all the way to the United Nations. Chief Sherelle explains, "We have joined together with our Alaska Native relatives to bring awareness to the damages caused by greed and selfishness with a complete disregard for Mother Earth and all living beings. We are showing the world that you do not have to just sit by and watch our planet, our health, and lifeways be destroyed." Thousands of miles away, Mark Steggy, climate researcher with UUSC partner organization Joe Jiggum, is working on similar climate issues facing communities in the Marshall Islands. As a native Marshallese and an indigenous scientist, Mark is committed to centering his people's knowledge, experiences, and wisdom in understanding and addressing the impacts that the climate crisis is affecting on their home. Collaboration is key to handling complexity, and so I've been motivated to develop the tools for collaboration by sharing and adapting both Western and Indigenous knowledge to promote innovation and identity, says Mark. Just as UUSC partners with those to save their homes, we also partner with those who have been forced to find a new home elsewhere.
Since 2017, over 700,000 Rohingya Muslims from the Rakhine State in Burma have been forced to flee their homes into neighboring countries due to the genocide perpetrated by the Burmese military. Suja Karim-Uddin was compelled to escape his home as a teenager after being detained and tortured by Burmese state officials. Suja struggles with a longing to return to his homeland, but has found strength within the Rohingya diaspora community, knowing that even in the depths of loss, they can be a bit of home for one another. We try to build that sense of community wherever we are, wherever we live, Suja says. Towards that end, Suja co-founded the Elam Empowerment Community Center, now a UUSC partner organization. Elam Empowerment is a Rohingya-led community center based in Malaysia that conducts youth capacity building trainings and facilitates food distribution for Rohingya refugees in and around Kuala Lumpur. According to Suja, the goal of Elam Empowerment is to provide a safe space for Rohingya refugees to come and breathe, a space where they can come and feel free.
Many Central American migrants are seeking a place they can feel free as well. Residents of Central American countries such as Guatemala, El Salvador, Honduras, and Nicaragua are still dealing with the aftermath of intense civil wars, some of which lasted decades, and which targeted the indigenous communities of those countries along with poor farmers. To this day, extractive mining and drilling industries, drought exacerbated by climate change, and deadly domestic and state-sponsored violence are forcing people from their homes and across borders. Women, LGBTQI+ people, and indigenous communities are particularly vulnerable to these factors that lead people to have to build a home elsewhere. Adela Ramirez, a human rights advocate with UUSC's partner in Guatemala, Asociación Popnoch, says, "The majority of people here live in conditions that are not good, and poverty prevents them from fully living their lives. People cross the border in search of new opportunities for their families. That is why we at Popnoch always say that migrating is an act of love."
Migration is an act of love. And this act of love is being met by increasing cruelty and xenophobia by the United States. Decades of draconian and deadly U.S. immigration policies are culminating in crowded detention centers, which provide ideal breeding grounds for COVID-19, a near complete dismantling of the asylum system, the destruction of a humanitarian aid station in the Arizona desert by Border Patrol agents, the dismantling of due process and deportation proceedings, and still the continuation of family separation. Not only are these actions cowardly, hard-hearted, and small-minded, they are also a fundamental denial of a truth that could not be clearer. We are all connected. Those of us privileged enough to currently have relatively safe and stable homes are reflecting on the centrality of such places in our lives, especially now. Does the possibility of losing this home seem as distant as it once did? Can we imagine the results of climate change making our homes uninhabitable in the near future? Or what about government policies making it impossible to stay? This is already the reality for some of us. And for others of us, these potentialities no longer seem improbable. This is a lot to take in. The question now is, can we channel this uncertainty, this fear, into empathy and commitment? Can we approach these challenges with a spirit of collaboration and determination? Can we recognize our interdependence enough to realize that our homes, our health, and our lives are all inexorably connected? I think we can. We must. Remember poet Benjamin Zephaniah's words. We can all be refugees. Sometimes it only takes a day. Sometimes it only takes a handshake or a paper that is signed. We can all become refugees. Nobody simply just appeared. Nobody's here without a struggle. And why should we live in fear of the weather or the troubles? We all came here from somewhere. Nobody simply just appeared. We all came from somewhere. This earth is our home. Some of us live on the same patch of land our ancestors called home for millennia. Others of us have called this land home for a few generations, if that. Some of us long for a distant home we remember from our youth, and others of us have always lived in the town we now call home. Regardless of the miles between us, this earth is our home. The distress of our planet and the turmoil of our societies, these are the circumstances we find ourselves in, regardless of what we wish were true instead. Our relationships to our homes have dramatically intensified this year. Do we have the courage to turn that intensity into compassion? Can we feel, not just know, but feel the primacy of the value that everyone, everywhere, has the right to self-determination and safety in their homes? Some essential part of everyone longs for a sense of peace, a sense of belonging, a sense of rightness that can be described in no way other than home. At UUSC, we will continue to honor that longing and fight for the right of people to claim, create, and be home. I want to lift up Chief Sherelle, Mark, Suja, and Adela once again. I want to acknowledge both the loss and the resilience in their stories. What home means is changing and evolving for many of us. With courage, imagination, and determination, the home we help co-create with all of Earth's people will be one of more kindness, more gratitude, and more justice. Please join me in saying, Amen and blessed be.
We extinguish our chalice by reciting together the words on your screen. We extinguish this flame, but not the light of truth, the warmth of community, or the fire of commitment. These we carry in our hearts until we are together again. Thank you for joining us today for this special service. We leave you with these words attributed to Chief Noah Selth. This we know, the earth does not belong to us, we belong to the earth. This we know, All things are connected like the blood which unites one family. All things are connected. Whatever befalls the earth befalls the sons and the daughters of the earth. We did not weave the web of life. We are merely a strand in it. Whatever we do to the web, we do to ourselves. Go in peace.